Heron and Hummingbird from The Empress Nightingale and Other Feathery Tales by Jane Ray. There was once a great river that made its way from the mountains to the sea. In some places it rushed and gurgled. In others it flowed like a deep green ribbon, winding its silky way through forests and valleys. All sorts of animals and birds lived along the river's path.
Heron and Hummingbird were good friends, even though they were very different, both in looks and in character. Hummingbird was a tiny bundle of colour full of fun. He spent his days flitting from place to place, catching a little silverfish here, sipping sweet nectar from a flower there, chasing sunbeams and bumblebees. Heron was bigger and smaller and quieter. She sat for hours at a time, deep in thought, occasionally swooping down to scoop a fish from the river in her great bill.
One long hot summer, when there'd been no rain for weeks and weeks, the river began to dry up. The muddy banks were cracked and dry, and the fish had become fewer and fewer. Hummingbird said to Heron, "I'm not sure there are enough fish in the river for the both of us. We must have a race to decide who is going to own the fish that are left." Heron thought for a moment and said, "We'll race to the tall tree just before the waterfall. It will take all day." They agreed to start at dawn the following morning. Whoever was sitting at the top of the tree by sunset would own all of the fish in the river. Hummingbird said to himself, "I'm sure I will win. I may be small, but I'm fast, and I can zip and flit around as quick. I'm going to enjoy this."
As the sun rose the next morning, the two birds perched on a rock in the middle of the river. Heron stretched out her great wings and thought about the journey ahead. Hummingbird was impatient to set off, and, as the first beams of the rising sun lit the water, both birds rose into the air. Heron flapped steadily and patiently, her long legs trailing in the water. Hummingbird zipped past her singing, "You'll have to go faster than that, my friend. Look at the speed I'm doing." And indeed, Hummingbird had got off to a fine start. He sped along, a bright ball of green and blue feathers, iridescent in the morning sunshine. As the sun rose higher in the sky, Hummingbird's lead became greater and greater. "Maybe I'll just nip down and take a little refreshment from those hibiscus flowers at the water's edge," he thought. "Heron is miles behind. I have time." Down he sped, hovering in front of the beautiful flowers and drinking deep from their delicious nectar. Before long, he was so full of sweet nectar that he grew sleepy and began to doze off, his tiny green head drooping to his breast. As dusk began to fall, Heron flapped past him, the long, even strokes of her great wings pulling her on and on.
The sun began to sink behind the mountain, and a little breeze sprang up and ruffled Hummingbird's feathers. He stretched and opened one eye. "Oh well," he thought, "I suppose I'd better go and win this race." He sprang into the air, refreshed and full of life, and zip-zipped around the last curve in the river towards the tall tree. Imagine his surprise when he rounded the bend and saw Heron sitting sleek and calm at the very top of the tree. "Well, good evening, my friend," she said. "Why so slow?" Ever since that day, Heron has owned all the fish in the river, big and small, and Hummingbird, well, he only drinks nectar from the flowers on the bank.